Oh, awesome. All right. Well, welcome everyone. This is our final tug of 2025. So if you're new here, thanks for joining. We meet quarterly, virtually every time. And if you've attended our events in the past, thanks for joining us again. Today we're going to be talking about Tableau Visionary and AI Data Viz Wiz with Adam Mico. So Adam has created a GPT that he's going to show us. We're wanting to make this a little bit of an interactive session. So I would say just listen in as he begins his presentation once we get there. And then any questions that you have, any dashboards that you have that you want to get feedback on, be prepared to bring those up in the chat. And then later in this meeting, we're just going to do very quick breakout sessions, and that'll just be so we can discuss what we learned from Adam, as well as just talk about some general AI in today. How are people using it in their jobs, things like that. So very interested in what people have to say. Let me go back. This is our TUG leadership team. As always, Tammy, Robert, myself, Tosh, and Brady. Reach out to us anytime. If you're interested in just bringing up some topics, interested in the opportunity to present in one of our sessions, we're always happy to talk to you guys and hear from you guys. So this is our agenda for today. We'll start with a little poll, and then we will move to some general updates. Following that, Adam will present AI meets Tableau, how custom GPTs are revolutionizing data visualization and learning. Very excited about that. And then following Adam's presentation, like I said, we'll do some breakout sessions and discuss what we learned together. Following that, we'll end with some Q&A and then the swag winners. As always, we have swag winners for attending these meetings, so that's also pro to joining in every quarter. All right, and then from here, I'm going to hand it off to Brady. He's going to lead the poll, but you can use your phone if you'd like, get that QR code and head to the poll.
Yep, I also put the link in the chat. Can you stop sharing, Tosh, and I'll share my screen. Thank you. Okay, should look like this. I'm going to give it a start. Again, chat, it has the link, and you can also scan the QR code anytime. These are just a fun thing we like to do to help people feel involved more in the community. So first question for this year is your favorite pumpkin treat, whether that be a pumpkin spice latte, pumpkin pie, pumpkin bread, candy that's just shaped like a pumpkin, none, or if you have another, put it in the chat. I wasn't really sure how many other pumpkin things there are. Looks like we are overwhelmingly a pumpkin pie, pumpkin-shaped pizza. Ooh, I know Papa Murphy's does that. That's a good one. Apple cider. Ooh.
Apple cider.
Next, a little relevant for today's question is, how often do you use an AI chatbot? I mainly use AI, I would think, probably through like large language models when I'm just Googling something, or we use Edge. But like, I don't really, me personally, I don't really use ChatGPT for anything outside of work, except for doing some research for vacations. It's very helpful. Okay, looks like once in a while, but we're not a group of everyday users. What Tableau desktop version are you using? Now this can always be a wide variety. I think I'm currently using 25.1. Try to stay away from the most recent. We recently updated our Tableau server from 2023.1 to 2025.1, so that was a big jump. A lot of older models, it looks like. Yeah, I try to keep it relatively close, but normally not the most recent version. I know we lost last night, but will the Brewers make the World Series? Hopefully someone can beat the Dodgers, even if it's not us.
Terang should have taken the hit and tied the game on a walk.
Yeah, I will say.
Don't want someone to get hurt, though.
I will say a fastball to the kneecap would have not felt great.
Yes, that is very true. That is very true.
Yep, I'm going tonight. Hopefully we can even the series.
Cheer loud.
Do my best. I'm not optimistic though. I think the Dodgers have so much more.
But we got Peralta on the mound, so that'll help.
Yeah, they have 4 of him though. That's the problem. Do you use Tableau, Cloud, or Server? Both? Neither? We use Tableau, Cloud, and Server, depending on the client. So lots of logins for both. Mostly Server. Tableau does not like to see things like that. They want everyone on clouds that can sell us more things. What is your perfect fall weather temperature range? I was at the Wisconsin-Michigan game a week and a half ago, and that was 80. It was in October. It was sad. I think for me, it's either 60 to 70 or 50 to 60. Sweatshirt weather is the ideal. 70, 80, you might not want to live in Wisconsin. I hope that's the Texas person. Yep, that makes sense. Thank you, Matt. What is your favorite use of AI? There's a lot of different things you can use. Coding assistance, research assistance, summarization of meetings and emails, asking general questions. I just don't like AI or something else. I did not use AI for coming up with any of these poll questions. I used my own brain to come up with these today.
Good job, Brady.
Thank you. I'm really proud of that. Main thing I use is for research. Be able to look up a client or our company, or doing trip on a research research for a trip to where should I go and things like that.
Mm-hmm. I use it for troubleshooting.
Yep, that's a good idea too. Well, that is the last of my poll questions.
Awesome. Thanks, Brady. All right. We're going to move on to our featured speaker for the day, Adam Mico. We're talking about custom GPTs for synthetic data creation and evaluating visualizations. So Adam, very excited to have you. Adam is a principal data and analytics strategist at Moderna, a Tableau visionary, multi-year Tableau ambassador. He has created a panoply of custom GPTs that support data analytics and Tableau. So thanks again, Adam, for being on with us today. And I will let you take it away.
Sounds good. First, I'll need to share my screen.
Yes. All yours.
Not a problem. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this presentation on introducing some custom GPTs for you. So I'm excited to chat with you about utilizing these practical custom GPTs to help you level up in Tableau. And before we get into that, I'll do a brief introduction of myself. So I'm Adam. I'm not in the Boston area, but I grew up in Kenosha. I spent over 22 years working with the state of Wisconsin in Milwaukee and then later on in Madison. And that's where my love for Tableau began. I was introduced to it back in 2011 or 2012 from John Westbury. And he was a former Wisconsin Tug co-lead that many of you may know. And I got to work with Robert a bit in 2019 and 2020, I believe. And then since 2020, I've been lucky enough to be a Tableau ambassador. I've been a visionary since 2022, and also very fortunate to be honored to be the first DataFam member to receive a golden hoodie at Dreamforce. And that was during the Tableau keynote in 2022, back 3 years ago. And published a desktop specialist certification guide with PACT back in 2023. So since moving from Wisconsin, everything I've done professionally has pointed me toward the intersection of data visualization and AI. So that professional and personal curiosity has led me to collaborate and create some really fun experiments and even more useful data products. And the custom GPTs I'm showing you today are a big part of that journey. I'll include a number of QR codes, and they will be separately shared in the chat. So the QR code you see right now is to my LinkedIn. So today I'm going to walk you through 4 GPTs for developers with a bonus one for stakeholders. They're designed with Tableau users in mind. They're not just ideas or proof of concepts, they're real working tools that help solve everyday problems we run into as data professionals. These tools aided in frictionless learning, aided many Tableau visitor days, and referenced many times in various initiatives, and a few of them are even covered in the new book, Dashboards That Deliver. And it was a real honor to be mentioned. Some of the GPTs that I helped produce be mentioned there as well. And think of this as more of a behind the scenes tour of AI meeting Tableau in the best way possible. Practical, frictionless, helpful, and maybe even a little fun without the upsell, as we were talking about Salesforce earlier. So first up, we have Data Mockster. And honestly, I would call it like having a data DJ delivering the greatest data mixes. So you tell it what kind of data set you need, the columns, the data types, how many rows, and it gives you a small preview to check before you commit. And this is definitely the favorite GPT I built because I would have absolutely loved this back when I was a Tableau evangelist and go-to-market consultant, building POCs and MVPs for different clients when I didn't have access to data. So instead of using Mach.ru or something like that, this will get you there quicker and I believe better results as well. So I consider it a perfect tool, at least at this level, for creating synthetic data when you're testing dashboards, teaching, or experimenting, and all without ever touching any sensitive or real information. Another pro tip as a separate use case is that you could utilize it to anonymize your data as well. So you give it sample rows that you have, and maybe you have actual PII and so forth in your data, but you can have it create a mock data set from pretty much anything. And we'll get into that a little bit later when I display some of those GPTs and we walk through them. A little bit more on Data Mockster. It's built with privacy in mind. Again, it never uses real data ever. You could tweak your workflow in mid-process. So no need to start over when you're working with it. It's just like you're working with a data engineer. So, and if you're unsure where to begin, you could just ask it for a tutorial. It's built to think before generating, so which really keeps your workflow safe and predictable. And another way to use it is, again, to apply to your to blind your real data for additional GPT analysis. So it compares apples to apples, and you don't ever have to share private data when it's not relevant to share. And again, this QR code is going directly to Data Mockstar. So next up is a really fun tool, so Tableau Virtuoso. So think of it as your product assistant. It includes all of your Tableau help articles included in that, as well as instructions meant to help work with you and help you upskill in Tableau. So instead of like looking on the internet and looking in Google, think of this as like your Tableau expert on your side. So it's like your personal Tableau solution engineer who's memorized the entire manual. And all the information comes from official Tableau documentation. So it's no random web searches, no AI improvisation unless ChatGPT gets a little buggy. And it even adapts to your setup. So you could explain the Tableau version you're using, whether you're on OS, whether you're using it on AWS or Azure. And it walks you through things step by step. Again, it's just like having an expert on your desktop. Anytime you need it, it's right there. I've used it to help with calculations as well, help me understand what the heck a regular expression is. It's so good at coming up with stuff in such a way that it's easy to follow, and that's how it was built and tested out. Currently, right now, this is the top rated custom GPT for Tableau product with over 1,000 conversations and 20 views. So use it and feel free to provide feedback, because that feedback will make it even better. And we'll get into that in a bit. And what makes it so special is that it just doesn't guess, it confirms. So if it doesn't have the info that it needs at the time, like your operating system, it'll ask first. So every answer includes context for follow-up reading. So you're not just solving a problem, you're learning something new. It's meant to be an education assistant. So think of it as being confident without being overconfident. And I think that's what we really need from AI. So this is another one. This was like a fun one for me, because a lot of people ask me for feedback on their data visualizations, and there's a lot involved. And a lot of people, they don't feel like they can ask people to provide feedback. So I wanted to make a friction-way application, so somebody could just post a screenshot and it provides you actionable steps, provides the good and bad of your visualization, and it scores it based on layout, clarity, and storytelling. And this is the one I worked on and tested the most. I actually tested this with hundreds and hundreds of data visualizations to get the balance just right, get the tone just right, and so forth. And so many people have utilized this not only for their public data visualizations or work ones. Hopefully they're not using their actual work data, but also they've used it for Iron Viz feedback and so forth when they weren't able to reach out to somebody or felt a little shy to talk to somebody. So this is a tool that's been used a lot. It focuses on best practices and it focuses on actionable feedback. So if they provide you information on how to improve something, the focus is on constructive feedback and something that you could actually fix and update. And even if you fix a few of the things that they're suggesting, that's going to be super helpful for you because you won't have to worry about the friction of going back and forth with your stakeholder, and you'll know you'll have the best practices in hand. So what I really appreciate about this Critique Pro is how balanced it is. It just doesn't point out just what's wrong with your biz, because I would be crushed if it just labeled everything, this is horrible, it doesn't look good, blah, 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 but it highlights what's working too. So it may say your color palette's strong, but your axis labels could use a little bit more contrast. Those are the types of things it's sharing, so it's not being overly critical, but it's helping you get the confidence that you need to do that next item to make it a better visualization. It also checks for ethical pitfalls. So like misleading scales and chart clutter, this helps you tell your stories responsibly. Sometimes it looks better when you're adjusting certain labels and so forth, but it's not completely ethical, and it reminds you of what you're doing to make your visualization as ethical as possible. And it also tests for accessibility and provides interactivity options. It doesn't score on this, but it does provide information on that and how you can improve that. A pro tip I would share is utilize multiple screenshots, not just one, especially if you have a very interactive visualization with a lot going on in your, excuse me? So next is Dashboard Documentation Pro. This is a really fun tool because if you're like me, you really hate documenting dashboards and so forth. So this is a tool where you could provide a screenshot or a series of screenshots to show interactivity, and it begins the dashboard documentation process for you. So it gets you 80% there in many cases, especially if you include multiple screenshots. So you could just iterate on that and make it even better for your stakeholders. Something that would have taken me 6 or 7 hours before, because there's a lot of elements of a dashboard and you want to make sure you get everything. You can cut that down to 1 or 2 hours just by utilizing this and get a jump start on that. And it also tries to use writing best practices as well and keep the documentation as succinct as possible. But if you want extended documentation, you will be able to provide information on that too. So think of it as auto-generated help text that you could build for your stakeholders. So these are the GPTs that I built for the developers in mind. The next one covers what. I'll get to that one. I forgot I built another slide for this one. So again, this GPT also helps you design with accessibility and ethics in mind. It encourages labeling, source transparency, and checks for color contrast. It's thoughtful, not just about how your dashboard looks, but how people use it and interpret it. So it's intended to be your partner for engagement and accessibility, because if people can't use it, they're not going to use your dashboard unless they absolutely have to. So it's kind of like having a second pair of eyes that makes sure your work is both beautiful and responsible. And here's the bonus. It's called Dashboard Detective, because a lot of stakeholders, they look at a dashboard, especially one that's super intense, and they have no idea where to start. So this is intended for stakeholder literacy. So you upload a screenshot of your dashboard, and it investigates what's in it. It looks at KPIs, it looks at charts, it looks at filters, and even suggests what it thinks the dashboard is trying to communicate. So think of your stakeholders' needs and helping them understanding what's on it. And it gives them an opportunity to do this friction-free, especially if the developers haven't really put up really good dashboard documentation to assist them on that, or don't have a really good engagement process. The one thing, again, I'll of course caution on is to make sure that the data is not PII or anything like that when you're sharing it, and you may want to just have a blinded or an updated version if you're sharing it into a GPT. I can't see what you're doing, but some of the data is stored in ChatGPT. You could use temporary for not storage, but I would advise to make sure that if it's private information, you only use it in your work GPT if you have an enterprise LLM at work, and then you could publish, you could paste it there. But outside of that, it's super helpful for people, especially if you're inheriting something. Even as a developer, you may need an understanding of what's going on in the dashboard if you're not super skilled in looking behind the scenes, and it gives you a quick wraparound of what it's trying to ask and what questions and so forth it's trying to answer. So that may be also helpful for developers too, trying to understand what's going on in a dashboard if they inherited it. So what do these GPTs have in common? So besides being free to use, I treat them as products. All of these GPTs have the same philosophy to me. They're meant to support, not replace the work that you do. They don't browse the web. They don't make wild guesses. And the intention is to make sure that the human element remains, and there should always be a human element related to anything you're utilizing with LLMs right now and for the indefinite future. So they're built to save you time, help you focus, and make your work just a little bit easier. And because they're grounded in trusted data and good ethics, they fit right into your professional environment. Again, if you're not sharing private information from your employer. Again, as I mentioned before, I cannot see your conversations, even if you're utilizing the GPT. And the only way I know that you're using it is if you rate it and send me feedback through the GPT. But you could also make feedback privately in the GPT where I don't even know that you're ever using it. And if you are sharing information to a GPT, even if it's private, you can aggregate it far up the line where it's not as private anymore, but make sure you have the okay from your employer, or make a version that doesn't utilize that information. And one more bonus. So I created a guide to help people build their custom GPTs if they want to build their own, if they're excited about a potential use case or anything like that. And that's on Medium. It's called Adam Mico's Guide to Building Custom GPTs, published on Bootcamp on Medium. And one more thing I'll point out is that all the links covered in the QR codes I will paste in the chat immediately following sharing this part of the presentation. And let me copy that before I do that. And finally, here's the fun time. And right before I do that, I'll paste the links and so forth in chat and stop sharing this screen. But I just want to make sure that you have an opportunity to look through these demos. And that's the primary focus of this presentation, is to make sure that you have an opportunity to see what these items can do and test it on some of the questions that you have. I would love to see what scenarios you have. I did already preload some help information, because I think one thing you should always do when you're working with the GPT is ask the GPT what it does, so you know exactly what you're getting into. So before I do that, I'll stop sharing this screen, and then I'll start sharing another one. But before that, I'll paste the links in the chat and answer any questions before I move on. Second. And here are my links. And the message was blocked because they're external links. I'll share them later, Robert, so you can include them in the aftermath. Apparently, external links is forbidden in Bevy. Any questions before I start sharing some of the GPTs?
I can go through our Q&A. Robert was posting the links in there. So that we have, the first question was, where do you find the GPTs? So a couple of questions we have on there is, does Data Mockstar impose a limit on the number of records it can generate when creating a mock data set?
Not exactly, but it's limited by the number of tokens. So generally, the default I put to it as 1,000 rows of data, which is kind of perfect when I've worked with POCs and MVPs. And you could also do schemas. You could create not only tables, but you can create schemas. And I'll show a little bit about that in a second. But I think the max I would suggest would be 10,000 rows if you want to be safe. Just because of memory and token limits on ChatGPT itself. They're extending them quite a bit, but just to be on the safe side. Good question.
Yeah, that was Leslie's question. The next question is from Angela. So it said, Adam, this is outstanding. So I'm always looking for new ways to uncover hidden insights in Tableau dashboards. If Dashboard Detective Pro GPT could ask just one unconventional question could reveal something most users miss, what would you suggest?
We could ask it, and we could ask it itself. So I guess that's a good question for Dashboard Documentation Pro.
Well, there we go. We'll answer that later then.
Yeah.
Stephanie asked, can you show an example of how one would sign into the site and upload a viz? I think we're going to go through that and see what GPT would suggest. I did have one question. When you're uploading a picture of a dashboard, how do you, I guess, how have you dealt with like showing, if you have tooltips, they might give you feedback on add tooltips when you have tooltips, but you can't show them in the picture. How have you dealt with that?
So I take multiple screenshots
Okay.
showing the filter, showing some of the interactivities, showing some of the tooltips. So if I want a detailed feedback, I utilize multiple screenshots showing that interactivity along with the standard version of the dashboard. In most cases, people just want to look at the basic look of the dashboard without looking at the interactivity portion of it. But in many cases, especially in the business world, the interactivity needs to be there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be helpful. And besides that, if it doesn't see the interactive elements in your dashboard, it's going to suggest those to you as well. So you may already have them covered. So that's one thing that would be good to note as well, is that, and we could share that. Is there any images in the chat of somebody's dashboard that wants to be reviewed? Put to the test. And we'll get to that after Data Mockstar, but that's something, if you want to share your dashboard, have live review of your dashboard during the tug, I'll be happy to do that. And we could omit the scoring if you want, or if you want to have fun and utilize the scoring, we could do that too.
I'm always willing to volunteer for anything on my Tableau public page to get roasted.
Any other questions before we jump into the GPTs?
I think that's the ones that we have in the Q&A so far.
Brilliant. So I'll share my screen again. And I had no internet problems during the presentation, correct? It didn't feel like it.
You're doing good.
Okay, just want to double check just because I was having so many this morning. So let me go back here. So this is Data Mockstar. So one thing I do with my GPTs is I make sure that I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to utilize conversation starters. So the biggest one is, how do I get started? Because that's such a scary thing for people, especially when they're utilizing GPTs and never utilized one before. So if you click on that, it'll provide a breakdown. Typically, what I use right now is the auto model. It's working pretty good these days, but you could utilize whatever model that you want in GPT, but for this particular case, I'll use an auto model. So just basically what you need to do is describe your data set. It gives you a confirmation sample preview, and then it allows you to generate a full data set, and you could download it to a CSV, JSON, or a script. Whatever you want. So I'm asking somebody here, what type of data set do you want to see? Let's make one up on the fly to show you what that this actually works. So anybody want to volunteer on a fun data set?
Any answers, just fill that in the chat.
When you have a blank screen, it's scary, right?
Yep.
So let's have a fun one for now. So I am part of the Wisconsin.
We did get a suggestion from Angela, Jeopardy contestant winners.
Oh, yes. Let's get a fun data set on Jeopardy contestant winners with their locations. And that's another thing that was the most difficult thing for me on this particular GPT is getting mock geography correct, especially when you're working with data. There's a lot of geography that you're utilizing. So this will be a fun experiment here. So let's create a fun contestant winners with their locations from the 2000s through 2020. So thank you for the compliment. It complimented you on your request. So right now it's showing what the proposed schema is in this case. So it shows you, so it already kind of builds a data dictionary for you before you even get the data set, which is pretty cool. So it tells you what the column name is, the string, the description, and an example of what the output would focus on 2000 to 2020 Jeopardy contestants, will be fictional but realistic. Amounts and streaks will follow and includes gender diversity and geographic spread across the US. And before generating a preview, it has a couple questions, because unlike a lot of GPTs, it just doesn't go out and do things if it doesn't have answers to it. I build these GPTs to make sure, hey, if you don't have all the information you need, please ask additional questions, because it's more important to get it right than to get it fast. So let's keep them only, let's have only US contestants. So now it's confirming what it's doing based on the suggestions that we had. And we could either do a 5-row preview or jump in a full data set. Given time, I want to just do the 5-row preview so you could see, and then have it also, please do both. That'll make it quick. So instead of the iterative approach, it's analyzing. So what it's doing is it's creating a data set as we speak right now. So it's pulling first names, last names, states, cities. So you get the whole breakdown of data just like you would normally get it in a CSV format, but this is just coming up with it on the fly. And the purpose of the data to the format I have it in, the intention is that it's best for data visualization. So by default, it's in tabular format. As you can see, now it's getting an error and so forth on it, but it's coming up with more stuff, and it's going to try again. So ultimately, it's going to pull out that data and give me a CSV to work with as you get coming up with a temporary location for that CSV that I'll be able to download. But it's now rethinking. I think ChatGPT is a little bit buggy right now, so that's why it's reanalyzing. It's redoing its script at this point. So any questions on this while it's analyzing?
We got some recommendations. We got some dashboards that for review, but I don't see any questions specifically about this.
So now here's now it's pulling up right now. So we have our 5-row preview, and I could simply just download this CSV, and I have a mock data set to work with if I'm happy. If I download it and I don't like it, if there's something I need to change about it, all I have to do is correspond further in the chat, and then I'm done.
Would we be able to see the data set, Adam, or would it take a minute to load it? I don't want to crash your...
It's on a CSV right now, so I'll just pop it up.
I do have one question for you. You said ChatGPT is being a little buggy, which, I mean, it's ChatGPT. How often do you have, like, where does that come up? Like, oh, ChatGPT is just being weird.
Depends. There's some point every day. But here's that there's something you can get notifications from ChatGPT. But here's the data set in all its glory. Let's see how many rows that we have. 1,050 rows. It tells us whether Final Jeopardy was correct, streak length, the amount won, the game type, the year, the state, and the city. We could see that these are proper cities for its corresponding state, at least that I'm familiar with, which is super helpful, especially for geography. That was the main thing it was giving me like Miami, Michigan, and so forth, and it was all sort of weird. But it's providing a really quick data set that somebody could work with if they want to play around with this type of data. So it's pretty quick, pretty seamless, and it took all of 5 minutes, even though ChatGPT was not working at 100% this morning. So that's good there. And I guess we only have 4 minutes left, so I might as well just show Viz Critique Pro real quick. So is there a screenshot that you could share in the chat real quick?
So I don't think we can upload pictures to the chat, but there's a couple links in the chat. Are you able to open those
Okay,
on your end and use that?
let me take a look here.
Okay. And just so you know, Adam, you're fine to go over your time. So
Okay.
I think people are very interested in what you're showing. So
Sure.
happy to hear from you and see everything that the GPTs can do.
Okay, sounds good. But I just want to make sure to be mindful of that. So one second, let me just pull this up. So what I'm going to do is download an image of your dashboard right here, and I'll share it really quickly. So here's a dashboard here from Tosh. I'll download an image of that dashboard and simply publish that image or copy that image and paste it in Biz Critique Pro without any additional information on it. So I'm going to start a new chat to see how powerful this tool is, even without having any additional information. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new chat real quick. And do you want me to score it with figures? So you want the scoring breakdown as well? Let's have some fun.
Let's do it.
So it's a brand new chat. All I did was paste the screen print. So the purpose of this is to make this as simple as possible for users to engage with. So right now I have a screenshot. So now it's thinking. And I generally have it on the thinking mode, which takes a little bit longer, but generally gives you better, more cohesive answers and cohesive feedback. And that's kind of why I suggest thinking on that one, because there's a lot of visual analytics that it has to put into place and a lot of internal documentation that I put into this GPT so it works the way that it's intended to work. So there's a lot of things to look at, and we could see that it's doing the color analysis and suggestions. So it's just like you're bringing it into a data visualization expert to do its professional feedback. And that's something I enjoy quite a bit, providing that type of feedback. I asked for spelling errors as we are using Tableau. Oh, interesting, Robert. Now it's clarifying scoring and making adjustments. And another fun thing here, Tasha, is that I wonder if you'll get this. There is an aesthetic bonus too. So there's up to a 0.5 aesthetic bonus that you can get for your data visualization if it beats the threshold. So I have a TLDR version if it's too long. So strong overview, breakdown flow, clear regional callouts, biggest risk. Priority interesting. Now it has your detailed critique and scoring. So audience adaptation, manager friendly, quick to scan, maps and ambiguous numbers, slow interpretation for execs. So very interesting feedback, and it's breaking down everything, but it's still thinking. So unfortunately, it's a little slow right now, as I told you that there was a network. I told you it was being buggy, and I could tell you that right now. Network connection is lost, but it just got that from a screen print, which is pretty cool. It's amazing.
That's already a lot of feedback.
The use case that I came up with and what made me think about this particular GPT is that somebody was trying to extract information from a PDF using GPT technology. I'm like, let's do this one step further. Let's make feedback frictionless as possible and actionable without getting people upset. So that's kind of the purpose of this. But unfortunately, I think it is a little bit buggy right now, but you get the point. It's giving you a breakdown. It's giving you things on to fix that are high impact, a TLDR version. So it pretty much breaks everything down to you that would typically take a very long time for somebody to come up with and share that information with you. And you don't have to bug anybody while you're doing it. You just go right to the GPT and do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I guess that's a good time to break this on, given that ChatGPT is being a little, it needs its lunch apparently.
That's okay. I mean, that was a lot of feedback actually, just from a partial response to begin with. So I can only imagine what if you just let it think more and how much more response I would get from it. That was really interesting though, the scoring method behind it too.
And by the way, those are good scores.
Okay. Oh, that's good to hear. It's a
Yeah.
little, is it a tough score then?
So anything 7 above would quantify as a very good or almost exceptional score. So that would be on a higher level. There's a big delta between, let's say, 5 and 5.5 and 5.5 to 6. So each delta is pretty significant. I don't think I've seen anyone go above an 8.7.
Okay.
So it's very tough grader, but it's kind as well, and it gives feedback that's actionable. So I guess we'll take that. So I'd rather grade it a little bit tougher to give you something to look at and be like, maybe I need to pay attention to this, rather than giving everybody great grades and nobody taking action and making enhancing their visualizations or iterating on it. Because I don't care who you are. All visualizations require iterations at some point. That's what makes them usable and allows for continual usage. So iteration is the name of the game. If they're not asking you to iterate, you're not doing your job because they're not interested.
Absolutely agree to that. It's just a part of it. You did have a few more questions actually that came up in the Q&A. So one person, which I know we did show up for a quick second, but Amy was asking just to show what the data would look like. Oh, I see. That might have been part of the original question, which was just asking why use fictional data versus real data.
Oh, just for safety. I don't want anything out there that pretends to be real data when it's not real data. And to build this, it uses script to build as opposed to using actual real data. Again, it's safety in mind, and it's not intended for actual data, actual real world data. It's more intended for POCs and MVPs and to help you understand what that data does. So let's say you're working in pharmaceuticals, but you have no idea about clinical trials. So it may be helpful if you're a data analyst to have a data set on a clinical trials to see kind of what people look at for their data and to get an understanding of what they're doing. So you could go in here, ask for a mock data set on clinical trials and get your mind wrapped around some of that data and kind of use it to build, start building assets with. And it will help you not only learn that data, but learn what they're looking for and what's key for those stakeholders. So it gives you more of an opportunity to be a generalist rather than SME knowing your actual data. You have the opportunity to learn pretty much anything about anything in the world. And it's modeled after Kaggle in a way as far as its output is designed. And that's for ease of understanding and ease of work. So that's another thing I'm pointing out too, is that you want to make sure when you're working with data, especially data that you're not really comfortable with, that it's as simple as possible. And that's the purpose of this, is not only getting you access to data and different types of data, even though it's mock data, but giving you realistic data that you could actually learn from and skill up with.
Yep, that makes sense. And I think you brought up a good point too at the very beginning with just safety concerns with using data. There's a lot of privacy, confidentiality agreements when you're working with companies' data. So just be mindful when you're sharing that data. So that's a great way to be able to get just a data set to start working with.
Exactly.
You did have one more question. Have you asked the tool to create a 9 viz? So high scoring viz is what I'm understanding the question has.
So it would just, because I know exactly what the scoring involves, so I know what would reach it, but it would be very difficult to achieve that. And it doesn't, and ChatGPT doesn't develop quote unquote great vizes yet, especially ones that would rank high. So think of it as figure skating. Not only does a viz have to be beautiful and usable and user friendly, but it has to be quite complex to get those higher scores. So if you have all those elements together, or maybe even a suite of dashboards that work really well together, that would likely lead to higher scores. or if you just have a gorgeous business dashboard, oftentimes that will lead to a high score as well. One thing I will point out is infographics kind of get a little bit of a lower score, and that was part of the purpose of the aesthetic bonus is to reward beautiful infographics. But there's kind of a ceiling of 8 in most cases for infographics, even if they're just the most amazing, gorgeous infographics you've ever seen, just because it values the more complexity and what needs to go into an actual dashboard that's super functional and super interactive, with the beauty and the complexity that's needed to make the data shine.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good to know the thought process behind the GPT, because I feel like people don't always get to understand how it works behind the scenes. So definitely appreciate you talking us through it and sharing how you came up with it and your thought process. So we appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. So the next part of this session, we're just going to do breakout rooms. So what I'm going to do is I'll set a timer on it. I believe I'll be able to do that. And I'll just break up the groups into just a handful of people each. So just so we can have some discussion about AI. I'm going to send a couple question prompts as well, just to get the conversation started. So I think a really great way to start would be talking about the GPTs that Adam just showed us. So just how you would use it, what you might use it for, any follow-up questions that you would have, things like that. I am going to drop the question. I have just a few of them into chat because I'm not sure if I'll have access to the full chat in the breakout rooms or not. But the first question is just related to Tableau specifically. Tableau has a lot of AI features if you haven't already used them. Explain data, ask data, those are 2 of them. They're definitely getting into the AI space a lot more, trying to push that for people to use. So I'd be interested to hear from anyone if you've had experience working in either of those sections of Tableau. Another question that I'm going to drop, this is more about like automation. I think that's another big focus that I've heard about people trying to automate their workflows, automate their data refreshes. That's definitely very highly asked for these days, at least from my perspective. And then one more question I'll drop. This is about data governance. So this goes back to like someone asked about why are we using fictitious data for the GPT that Adam was showing. And a big part of that is just because we have to be careful with sharing our data, especially if you're using it with an organization. Your company might have certain rules around it or not, like certain confidentiality agreements around sharing their data. So just being mindful of that when you start to use GPTs. And then before, so I know we're talking about breakout rooms. We don't have a huge group. So I think we might be able to do more of a group session and kind of just an open discussion. I guess the only thing is, let me see if I would be able to.
We could give them, if anyone wanted to talk in the presenter mode. So if you want to just do one big group, we would just turn on anyone that wants to answer a question in presenter mode.
Yeah, I think that would be good. Let's see.
I'll run down the list and activate everybody.
Okay, that works too. Thanks, Robert. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and activate everyone. So don't feel obligated to turn your camera on if you don't want to, but also please feel free to join in. So we'll just go through the questions that we had prompted then and kind of make this a more open group discussion. So let's start with the...
Sorry, real quick, everybody. I've enabled everybody to be presenters, so you'll be able to unmute your mic if you want to participate in the discussion. So you should see mute and unmute available now.
Thanks, Robert. Okay. So first question, has anyone been using the Tableau AI-powered features like explain data or ask data? And if you have, what has been your experience with that so far? I'll just go ahead and share my experience to get things started. My experience has been, I have used Ask Data a little bit. It has been helpful, but I don't use it very frequently. I think I tested it when it first came out, which was a while ago now, but I haven't actually used it since then. And I don't work with anyone who's using it yet. So yeah, I have been wondering though, if people do use it.
For me, it's tough just because like our sites that we have Tableau Cloud, it's information that like we can't run through large language models. So I think it's it just has to be like for a project that like something we'd have to actually be able to run through the Ask GPT or the AI without it being a concern.
Yep, I think that's a great point to consider. Anyone else experience with using the Tableau AI features specifically? Also feel free to drop your answer in chat too. Never use them myself. Thanks, Matt, for your comment.
Yeah. I know they moved it into desktop. It was just on the cloud site for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And like some of the stuff costs extra to use Tableau Plus, which is more expensive than regular Tableau Cloud.
Mm-hmm. Yep, price point, another very important factor for a lot of companies. Most of my time on desktop as well, yep. All right, how about next question? What repetitive tasks in your Tableau workflow would you most like to see automated with AI?
Yeah, and I guess it can copy it, but honestly, for me, it's most of the. So we're a team of data scientists that happen to dabble in Tableau, and so for me, it's more about the data. The data management and the pipelines and making sure that we've got the right classifications in place, the right behavioral audiences in place, and all of that. Additionally, we're also trying to take a lot of stakeholder input for thousands of observations, and so it's how do you start to coalesce some of that into a data pipeline that I can then help put into Tableau. So it's more of the front end is where I try to run into where I typically run into problems. But that's just me.
Yeah, for me it's documentation. Too much of my documentation is just in my head, or it makes sense to me, but then you go back and you're like, why on earth did I do this? And you spend a while figuring out why you did it, or try and explain to somebody else. But being able to have Tableau things documented as a decision you made automatically would be a huge time saver for me.
Mm-hmm. I thought the same when Adam was talking about his documentation GPT. I was like, wow, I could have used that multiple times the amount of times that I hand off a dashboard to a client and I'm trying to give them as much information as possible. They usually want like a one-pager on, what calculations are in here without me having to open it up and figure it out. Things like that would be pretty helpful to have just created for me.
Yeah, the how is this calculated? That question, I bet I get that a bazillion times a week.
Yep. All right, another question I had was, what data governance challenges have emerged as you incorporate more AI features into your analytics? I will say just right off the bat, I have run into like trying to put in specific fields that I'm trying to troubleshoot, like why is data showing the way it is. I have gotten a pop-up error before saying that you can't copy and paste this data. So it is interesting that depending on like what company you work for, what permissions and security they have, you might not be able to actually use a GPT, or you have to use whatever specific GPT the company has.
Yeah, our company specifically has like a version of Copilot that we can use as like for work-related things. And there's a lot of data we work with for clients that we know we cannot put through any large language models, so we have to make sure we're aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
Angela, I haven't heard anything about making it available for Tableau Public. I know that I've talked with Tableau reps. They'll give you a trial for Tableau Pulse, not Pulse Plus, to try things out. You can normally get that. You reach out to your Tableau rep. The downside I've faced with Tableau Plus versus like I have Tableau Cloud, moving from Cloud to Plus, is that you then have to move everything over. You don't just get like an upgrade, like a turn on for Tableau Plus. You have to, it's a whole new Tableau instance. So all your data sources, your prep flows, your desktop, everything's got to get moved.
Thanks for that, Brady. Let's see. All right. Well, I have one more question. Let me send. We'll finish it out with one more. So what AI tools are you using outside of Tableau? I think ChatGPT is the most popular one that I hear about if anyone's using any GPT. My company uses Claude. That's the AI that we have. Anyone else using any types of AI in their day-to-day work? Feel free to drop it in the chat too. Copilot, yep. Makes sense if your company is using Microsoft. Copilot is pretty popular.
Yeah, I built a Copilot agent to answer questions about Tableau dashboards we have, because people wouldn't read the stuff the files I made for them. So I made a Copilot agent so they can not use that and still ask me the questions.
Nice. ChatGPT. Robert, is there a free version? There's a free version of ChatGPT too, right?
Yeah. It just has some limitations on the number of conversations you can have with it and the complexity of them. They also have another tier up. I think it's $100 a month or $200 a month that gives you even more. But 20 has sufficed for me for my uses. And I use it, in terms of data visualization stuff, as well as for my profession teaching. So for prompts and writing assignments and ideas and ideation and speeding along the writing of things.
Nice. Yes. That makes sense. People use it for emails too, like creating some email drafts right away. Awesome. All right. Well, any other questions or topics before I move along. I don't want to miss anyone's if anyone had a burning question. If not, I will share my screen. All right. Thanks for staying on, being a part of the chat, listening in. I think it's pretty important to just be aware of where AI is going, seeing that, it's used pretty frequently. I know some people are still getting into it, but I do think it'll continue to be used and be incorporated into companies and everyday work. Moving along, so we're just going to look ahead to what's upcoming for future events. So if you're looking to continue to stay involved, our Wisconsin Tug, we meet next in January of 2026. That's our next virtual meeting. We don't have an exact date yet, but we will get it out once we start planning for that. Milwaukee Tableau user group meets on October 15th. That is tomorrow. So if you're interested in going in person, I believe it is at Ward 4 shared office space tomorrow, which is downtown Milwaukee. And then Madison meets virtually December 11th. So put that in your calendars as well. All right, we'll move to some swag winners.
Yeah, thanks y'all for hanging here till the end. Everybody, well, not everybody, quite a few people bailed out after our superstar headliner Adam was finished, but we use random number generator, and I took our list of people currently present. So Stephanie Harris, Rob Slutton, and Amy Wyeth. If you guys could direct message me using the DMs button down on the bottom of the screen and send me a DM with your email address, I will be sending you guys a gift certificate, an online gift certificate to the Tableau swag store. You guys can pick out something that you like from there. They have t-shirts, they have tech stuff, they have interesting notebooks and, Tableau-y things as well as useful things. If you have a dog, they have a really fabulous water bottle silicone bowl for like taking to the dog park. I have one of those. So you guys can choose whatever you like from the store. It's a pleasure to give you guys something that you find useful and interesting. And thank you, Tableau, for funding our swag giveaways. So yes, please DM me your email addresses so I can get in touch with you.
Thanks, Robert. And Brady, thanks for dropping those. Brady just dropped the link for user groups. So go ahead and click that link. You should see the user groups that are coming up. And then the address also for tomorrow's Milwaukee Tableau user group meeting.
I just got a message in the QA that says you guys aren't able to DM me. So if you're comfortable typing your email address into the chat, feel free. Otherwise, I'm putting my email address. Oh boy. And you can email me directly and I'll then be able to connect with you. I don't want to have you guys feel forced to put your email addresses out there. So my email address is rvsolace@gmail.com. Excuse me. Stephanie, Rob, Amy, if you guys want to email me or put your email address out here, I'll connect you with your swag prize. Whee!
Awesome.
My
dogs.
Whose is that?
Meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
That's a dog for applause. Thanks, everyone, for coming to our event.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in 2026 at the next Wisconsin one.
Thank you.
Yeah.